My husband Ethan got into a car accident and lost his memory. He forgot about me, the woman pregnant with his child, and instead clung to his first love, Lily, calling her wife. In front of me, Ethan and Lily shamelessly flaunted their affection, constantly showing off their love. He even made a scene about divorcing me so he could marry Lily. I granted his wish and signed the divorce agreement. Afterward, I went to the hospital and terminated the child I was carrying. 3 months later, Ethan knocked on my door, late at night. He stared at my now flat belly, his voice shaking as he asked, "Where's our baby?" I smiled and replied, "We're already divorced. Why would I keep the baby and ruin my chances of marrying someone else?" The day of the accident, Ethan had abandoned me at the hospital during a prenatal checkup to pick up Lily. The crash wasn't too serious, he just suffered a gash on his forehead. When I heard about it, I rushed to the hospital, frantic with worry, only to find Ethan holding Lily's hand and gazing into her eyes with deep affection. They were whispering sweet words to each other. When I called his name, Ethan turned to look at me, confusion written all over his face. "Who are you?" he asked. Ethan had amnesia. He remembered everyone, except for me, his pregnant wife. I didn't want Ethan to forget me. I tried every way possible to help him regain his memory. But Ethan resisted me. The only person he remembered was his precious Lily, and he clung to her every single day. I believed Ethan was only like this because he truly couldn't remember me. I thought that once his memory returned, he would surely recall me, his wife, and the child growing inside me. To help him recover, I ignored my pregnancy troubles and traveled from hospital to hospital every day, searching for top specialists. I even changed up the meals I cooked for him daily, hoping that familiar tastes would spark his memories. Until that morning, when I went to deliver freshly made soup to Ethan and accidentally overheard a conversation between Lily and her best friend. "Ethan never lost his memory," Lily's friend said. "He's just tired of Sophie clinging to him like a desperate fool. He wants a divorce so he can be with me." But splitting assets in a divorce would be too troublesome, and Sophie loves him so much she would never agree to it. So Ethan came up with this idea to pretend he had amnesia, making Sophie realize the situation and leave on her own. "But isn't Sophie pregnant?" her friend asked, shocked. "She's crazy about Ethan. She'll definitely give birth to the baby. If she has the child, they'll be even more tied together. That's why we have to let Sophie have the baby," Lily said, gently touching her own flat stomach. "You know the Ethan family needs an heir. I can't have children." So Ethan and I agreed. Let Sophie give birth, and once the baby is born, it'll be time for her to get lost. Hearing their conversation felt like falling into a pit of ice. I had to brace myself against the wall to keep from collapsing. Lily and her friend continued chatting, and that's when I learned that Ethan had been secretly meeting Lily behind my back all these years. Only then did I realize that Ethan and Lily had rekindled their old love long ago. Even before Lily had divorced her ex-husband, Ethan had secretly flown overseas to meet her several times. After Lily got divorced, Ethan no longer had any reservations and decided to make her his official partner. Unfortunately, Lily couldn't have children, and the Ethan family needed an heir. That's why Ethan had gotten me pregnant in the first place. The cruel truth was raw and blood-stained, stabbing me straight to the heart. Ethan and I had started because of my love at first sight. During college, I had worked multiple part-time jobs to support myself. One time, I was harassed by a foreigner, and it was Ethan who had stepped in to save me. A hero saving a damsel in distress, it was the perfect spark for love to blossom. I couldn't help but fall for him. By the time we got married, the Ethan family had already fallen into decline. Lily had abandoned Ethan for another man and left the country. I had heard about Ethan's deep, unwavering love for Lily, but I thought since Lily had willingly chosen to leave him and marry someone else, she would never come back into his life. I was confident that with enough time and effort, I could make Ethan fall in love with me. So I pursued him without hesitation. I stayed by Ethan's side through the 3 most difficult years of his life. During that time, the Ethan family business was crumbling, teetering on the edge of collapse. I fought hard to help him win contracts, even drinking with clients until I suffered from gastric bleeding. The revival of Ethan's company was built on my sacrifices. Later, as the company stabilized, my relationship with Ethan gradually improved. He would smile at me, take me to the movies, and even buy me flowers. I thought he had finally let go of Lily and had begun to truly love me. When Ethan proposed, I accepted without hesitation. After marriage, we seemed to share a loving relationship. I poured my whole heart into him, loving him unconditionally, accepting all his flaws, forgiving every mistake. Everyone around us knew that I, Sophie, loved Ethan with all my heart. I had lost myself. For Ethan, I was willing to do anything, but even I had my limits. If I had known that Ethan had never truly let go of Lily, that even after our marriage he continued seeing her behind my back, I would never have accepted it. I sat on a bench, scrolling through Lily's past. Just like she and her friend had said, she and Ethan had never truly cut ties. Even on the day Ethan and I got married, he sent Lily a message. He promised to send her a gift for her birthday, arranged for flowers to be delivered to her overseas apartment on Valentine's Day, and every time he traveled for business, he would find time to meet Lily, dine with her, and spend time together. During the 3 years when I thought I was living in happiness, traces of Ethan's love for Lily were scattered everywhere. The saddest part was that Ethan had hidden it so well that I had been completely oblivious. My 3 years of wholehearted devotion had made me the biggest joke. I sat alone on the empty street for 3 hours, scrolling through every bit of lingering connection between Ethan and Lily. Just as I was about to log off, I stumbled upon Lily's latest post. "Thank you for remembering all my little preferences after so many years. It feels so good to be loved." The background of the post was the kitchen of our marital home. Ethan was there, holding a knife, chopping vegetables. In the 3 years we were married, not once had he set foot in the kitchen. I was always the one carefully preparing meals. Even when I was sick, he hadn't so much as poured me a glass of water or cooked me a bowl of porridge. Yet now, he had brought Lily into our home, my home, and personally cooked for her. The difference between love and indifference had never been clearer. I stared at Lily's post for a long time and finally, I made up my mind. I didn't want this man anymore. No matter how much I had once loved him, I didn't want him anymore. I needed to cut Ethan out of my heart, like cutting out a malignant tumor. By the time I returned home, it was already night. The lights were on. As I opened the door, a soft, delicate voice floated over. "It hurts, Ethan. Be gentle." Standing at the entrance, I looked toward the living room and saw them. Lily was leaning pitifully against Ethan on the sofa, raising her injured hand. Ethan was tenderly applying medicine to her wound. Neither of them noticed that I had come home. In the world of love, there's no place for a third person. And clearly, I was the third person here. After treating Lily's wound, she deliberately leaned forward and just happened to kiss Ethan on the cheek. Ethan didn't pull away. He didn't need to say anything. It was obvious he enjoyed the intimate contact. Lily cast a provocative glance toward the entryway. The blatant provocation was utterly disgusting. I didn't linger at the door. I slammed it shut with a loud bang. Hearing the noise, Ethan turned around and saw me. His expression froze for a moment, then he quickly pushed Lily away and tried to explain. Lily broke a dish while washing it. She cut her hand on the shards. I was just helping her. "There's no need to explain," I interrupted coldly. "After all, the woman you love is Miss Lily. It's perfectly natural for you to act intimately with her." I had no interest in arguing or demanding answers. Ethan's expression stiffened, while Lily's eyes flashed with a triumphant glint. She leaned into Ethan again and said pitifully, "Ethan, you should explain things clearly to Miss Sophie." Ethan gently patted Lily's shoulder and said tenderly, "Don't worry, I'll talk to her." Even though I had already decided to give up on Ethan, seeing this scene still made my chest tighten painfully. Fighting back the stinging in my eyes, I forced myself to speak. "Ethan, I have something to say to you." He gently pulled away from Lily and said, "I have something to say to you too." Then he turned to Lily with a doting smile. "Wait for me outside. I'll talk to Sophie." Lily reluctantly let go of Ethan's hand and, before leaving, gave me another mocking glance. I sat down across from Ethan. Before I could even open my mouth, he cut me off. "Sophie, let's get a divorce." His words were quick, sharp, and without hesitation. "I don't remember you," he continued. "Clearly that means you weren't important to me." There's no point in us being tied together anymore. The person I love is Lily. I want to marry her, so we have to get a divorce. Ethan said it himself. He wanted a divorce. This was exactly what I had wanted to say to him too, but somehow, my heart still hurt. Hurt so much, it was unbearable. I exhaled slowly and softly, forced out a single word, okay. The next morning, I went to the obstetrics department and scheduled the surgery with a doctor. The procedure was quick. They administered anesthesia, and I didn't feel any pain. When I woke up after the anesthesia wore off, I was already lying in a hospital bed. After resting for about 4 hours, I prepared to leave, only to unexpectedly run into Ethan and Lily. Lily clung to Ethan's side like she had no bones to support herself. Ethan was holding a small pharmacy bag in his hand. When Lily spotted me, she sweetly called out, "Miss Sophie." I ignored her. I didn't even spare Ethan a glance. I kept my eyes straight ahead and walked past them. Ethan blocked my way, his expression full of displeasure as he asked, "What are you doing here? Were you following me? I told you already, I don't remember you. What's the point of all this? Can't you just stay at home and behave?" Ever since Ethan's so-called amnesia, I had been following him around every day, desperately trying to help him regain his memory. Little did I know that Ethan had fabricated the entire memory loss just to get rid of me. Thinking about how I had stayed up countless nights worrying about him made me feel utterly ridiculous. "There's no point," I said coldly. "From now on, if I see you two, I'll go out of my way to avoid you. Will that be good enough?" My tone was icy. Ethan's expression shifted slightly. His gaze fell on the bag of medication in my hand, and his face changed. "Are you sick? What's wrong?" he asked. "Even if I am, what does it matter? We're about to get divorced," I replied indifferently. "But he started to say, but Lily, sensing he was about to slip up, quickly clung to his arm and interrupted him. "Ethan, my stomach hurts," she said. Ethan immediately turned his concerned attention to Lily. He dropped the matter with me and half carried her away. After leaving the hospital, I contacted a postpartum care center to arrange a proper recovery. Before heading there, I made one last trip back to the house Ethan and I had shared. It was our marital home, the one we had bought together, the one I had personally designed and decorated. I had chased after Ethan for 3 years, married him, and then foolishly loved him for another 3 years, pouring all my affection into him. Now everything had come full circle. This house, which once felt so full of love, now made me feel sick to my stomach. I packed my clothes simply, pulled my suitcase downstairs, and left. Before I left, I removed my wedding ring and placed it on the coffee table. It wasn't until 3 days later that Ethan called me again. I was lying in a spacious, sunlit room at the postpartum center when the call came. Calmly, I answered, "Hello? Where are you?" he asked. "If you have something to say, just say it," I replied coldly. He seemed surprised by my indifferent tone. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "Sophie, you need to come sign the divorce papers." "Where?" I asked. "At the house." "I'm there now," he replied. I gave a simple, "Okay," then ordered a taxi back to our old home. For once, Ethan was alone. Lily wasn't with him. When I entered, he was sitting in the living room. On the coffee table in front of him was the divorce agreement. Ethan's gaze landed on my face. I knew I looked pale, drained of all color. He frowned slightly and said, "Why have you lost so much weight? Are you not eating properly? Or is the baby causing you trouble?" I said nothing. I simply sat down across from him, picked up the divorce papers. The agreement stated that I would get the marital home, a storefront property, 2 cars, and $5 million in cash. I knew that Ethan had traveled overseas to meet Lily and had given her countless expensive jewelry and gifts. The total value of those gifts alone far exceeded $5 million. I had worked so hard alongside him during the company's most difficult days, practically like a servant, sacrificing my health and dignity. And now, this was all I was worth? Ethan's cold-heartedness truly knew no bounds. I had indeed planned to give up on Ethan, but that didn't mean I was willing to be made a fool of. Pointing at the divorce papers, I asked, "Can you explain why I'm only getting this little? Isn't a divorce supposed to split everything 50-50? Ethan froze. I had always treated money lightly. I had never once argued with him over finances. Back when the company was struggling, I had worked tirelessly alongside him. After things finally stabilized, when Ethan told me to take a break, I simply and willingly went home to take care of the household, cooking for him day after day. I had never asked Ethan for a single penny. I didn't even hold a single share of the company. Ethan probably thought I didn't care about money. But it wasn't that I didn't care about money. It was just that I cared too much about him. So I let down all my guards. He stayed silent for a moment before asking, "How much do you want?" I answered calmly, "You're the one at fault here. You cheated on me with Lily. By law, shouldn't you be leaving the marriage with nothing?" "Sophie, I didn't," Ethan tried to argue. "You said it yourself that the one you love is Lily," I interrupted. "You've been living together, coming and going with her every day. Don't tell me the two of you aren't already together." I looked straight at him. "Ethan, we're still legally married. I'm still your wife according to the law. Whether or not you remember me is your business. But the law doesn't work that way. Legally, you're the one who violated the marriage. If I wanted to, I could make sure you leave with nothing." A flash of anger crossed Ethan's face. Maybe he thought I was trying to use this to force him to stay. He looked at me coldly and said, "I never thought you were this kind of person. You only care about money." "I'm not asking for much," I said indifferently. "Just half. Give me the equivalent in cash." Ethan's face was tense. After a moment, he said, "Fine. As you wish." Ethan instructed the lawyer to amend the divorce agreement, splitting the assets equally between us. I would still keep the marital home. Once the new contract was printed, I signed it without hesitation. While signing, I said, "Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau now." Ethan's expression turned strange, like he was confused by how easily I agreed. Grasping for something to say, he picked up the wedding ring from the coffee table. "This belongs to you," he said. "How could you just leave something so valuable lying around like that? What if it got lost?" "That's not my ring," I replied coolly. "It's yours. Now it's back to its rightful owner." I closed the contract and added, "You know perfectly well how much I cherished this ring." A flicker of panic flashed across Ethan's face. "I gave it to you. How could you return it?" he said, trying to hand it back to me. I stepped back to avoid him. "We're divorced now. Let's keep things clean and clear." "Oh, and the ring on your finger," I added, staring at his hand. "That's the one I gave you. Please take it off and return it to me." When we got married, Ethan had been reluctant to wear the ring I gave him. I had begged him, pleaded with him, and finally put it on his finger myself. I even joked that he would wear it for the rest of his life, only taking it off in death, and now I was asking him to take it off with my own hands. Ethan stared at me in disbelief. "You're sure you want me to take it off?" he asked. "I'm sure," I said firmly. "A proper ex should treat the other like they're dead. I promise to do exactly that." Ethan hesitated, reluctant to remove the ring. "Sophie, what if I regain my memory in the future?" I immediately cut him off. "You're already in a hurry to get married. Why bother regaining your memory?" He looked embarrassed. "I mean, he started. "There's no if," I interrupted coldly. "Please take off the ring. Let's go finalize the divorce." Ethan still hesitated, unwilling to remove the ring, but I stared at him insistently, and in the end, he had no choice but to take it off. I took the ring and, right in front of Ethan, threw it away. I saw his pupils contract sharply. He didn't look happy at all. But what right did he have to be unhappy? I was giving him exactly what he wanted. I was divorcing him so he could be with his beloved Lily. He should be laughing and thanking me for fulfilling his dream. His unhappiness was just my own illusion. Ethan and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and signed the divorce papers. We agreed to meet there again in a month to pick up the official divorce certificate. Walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I immediately called a real estate agent. I put the house up for sale. Meanwhile, after getting rid of me, the burden, the clingy fool, Ethan and Lily began flaunting their love without any restraint. Lily's social media was filled with sweet moments between her and Ethan. Ethan had a custom wedding dress made for her, along with a diamond ring engraved with "Love Only One in a Lifetime." Their wedding was scheduled for 1 month later, set to take place at the best 5-star hotel in the city. I lay in the postpartum care center, calmly scrolling through Lily's posts. Maybe I had been too furious before, because now I couldn't even find it in myself to feel angry anymore. For 6 years, I had lived a life without self-identity, revolving entirely around Ethan. From now on, I would live for myself. Once I received the divorce certificate, I planned to start traveling the world, taking time to truly enjoy life for the first time. As for everything else, I would think about it later. I stayed at the postpartum center for half a month. During that time, I didn't initiate any contact with Ethan. Oddly enough, he started calling and texting me every couple of days. It was almost funny. Back when I used to chase after him every day, he acted like I was invisible. Now that I ignored him, he came clinging to me instead. At first, Ethan simply asked about my health. When I didn't respond, he started mentioning the baby. "Sophie, how's the baby doing?" How ridiculous. When he was desperate to divorce, he hadn't given the baby a second thought. Now that we had signed the divorce agreement, he suddenly remembered the child. Initially, I didn't want to reply, but considering that the division of property hadn't been finalized yet, I answered instead. "How's the preparation for the settlement going? Can you transfer the money now?" His attempt at goodwill stirred no emotion in me whatsoever. Talking about money immediately soured Ethan's mood. "It's almost done," he replied stiffly. "Don't worry, I'll give you every penny you're owed." The next day, Ethan arranged to meet with me, saying he would give me the money. After half a month of rest, I looked much healthier. When Ethan saw me, he visibly relaxed. "Would you like something to drink?" he offered. "No need," I replied flatly. "Aren't you here to give me the money? Where is it?" My impatience was written plainly across my face. Ethan clearly didn't take it well. After all, I had always greeted him with smiles in the past. He had never seen me so cold before. He silently handed me a bank card. I took the card and immediately checked the balance on my phone. Seeing that I didn't even glance at him, Ethan tried to make conversation. "Sophie, are you doing all right? I'm a little worried about you." "What's there to worry about?" I replied curtly. "It's just," he hesitated. "Your doctor said you haven't gone for a prenatal checkup in 2 weeks. Sophie, is it inconvenient for you to go alone? Do you want me to accompany you?" "There's no need. I don't need prenatal checkups anymore," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. Ethan didn't know the child was gone. Seeing my impatience, he quickly changed the topic. "Is your body recovering well? Do you need me to hire a nutritionist for you?" "There's no need," I said firmly. "You don't need to worry about anything concerning me. And by the way," I added, "please find a time to come and pick up your belongings from the house." His expression twisted slightly, as if hurt. "You're really that eager to kick me out?" How pathetic. When I had loved him so deeply, he hadn't cared at all, putting all his heart into Lily instead. Now that I wanted nothing more to do with him, he suddenly seemed reluctant. Too bad, I was no longer anyone's garbage dump. I gave a cold, mocking smile and didn't bother explaining. Ethan's face darkened, and he stayed silent for a long moment before finally speaking. "Sophie, lately, I've been starting to remember bits and pieces. I think my memory might come back." I stared at him without any emotion, and Ethan clearly hadn't expected my cold reaction. He forced himself to continue. If I regain my memory and I remember everything between us, Before he could finish, Lily suddenly appeared. She walked up to Ethan with a pitiful expression, grabbing his hand right in front of me. "Ethan, why didn't you tell me you were coming out? Do you know how worried I was? I thought you didn't want me anymore. My heart hurts so much." I had no interest in watching them put on a show. Without a word, I got up and left. When I returned to the postpartum center, I received a message from Ethan trying to explain himself. I deleted it immediately and blocked his number. Half a month passed quickly. On the appointed day, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Ethan had arrived earlier than me. As soon as he saw me, he demanded, "Why did you block me?" "Why?" I asked back coldly. "Don't you know?" His expression flickered. "I was worried about you. I sent you so many messages, made so many calls." "Don't do that again." I cut him off. "A proper ex should act like they're dead. I hope you understand." Seeing my obvious impatience, Ethan pressed his lips tightly together. "Sophie, these past few days, I feel like I've started to remember some things," he began. I interrupted him without hesitation. "That's your business. It has nothing to do with me." Without another word, I picked up the divorce certificate, put it into my bag, and turned to leave. Ethan followed closely behind me. His gaze fell on my stomach. Sophie, the baby. Our baby. I stopped walking and turned around, smiling mockingly at Ethan. The baby? Are you sure you really want to know about the baby? Of course, he answered seriously. Even though I haven't fully recovered my memory, I do remember you were pregnant. How's the baby? I had originally planned to tell Ethan that the baby was gone. But before I could say anything, Lily suddenly appeared. She grabbed Ethan's hand and said sweetly, Ethan, you promised to take wedding photos with me. Let's go now. Ethan was pulled away by Lily, looking back at me with every few steps. But I had no interest in watching his pathetic performance. That night, Lily updated her social media again with their wedding photos. Recently, she had been posting obsessively, sometimes dozens of posts a day, all featuring Ethan. Ethan eating with her, Ethan peeling shrimp for her, Ethan taking strolls with her, Ethan helping her apply lipstick. She was desperate to publicly announce her possession of Ethan. Everyone could see her intentions clearly. She wanted to show me how much Ethan loved her, how little he cared about me. I didn't delete her posts. I kept them in my feed because I wanted to see how far she would go. I wasn't a hopeless fool. I had simply loved Ethan so much that I had lowered all my defenses. But after seeing Lily's return, after watching Ethan rekindle his old flame with her, after learning that he had faked his amnesia to deceive me, after hearing him personally propose divorce so he could marry Lily, I had hired a private investigator to dig into Lily's background. What I discovered was almost laughable. The woman Ethan loved so deeply wasn't at all as pure and innocent as he imagined. Back when the Ethan family fell into decline, Lily hadn't wanted to suffer hardship with Ethan. She found herself a better option, a wealthy businessman from Singapore named Mike. At the time, Mike was indeed rich. But Lily's luck had always been terrible. When she was with Ethan, the Ethan family went bankrupt. When she married Mike, Mike's career also began to fall apart. 3 years after marrying Mike, his business started to crumble. Meanwhile, Ethan was slowly rebuilding his own empire. When Lily heard that Ethan was doing well again, she regretted her choices. She began secretly reaching out to him. I didn't know how she managed to make Ethan let go of his resentment toward her. Maybe it was love. Loving someone sometimes meant forgiving even betrayal and every flaw. After confirming that Ethan still had feelings for her, Lily gained her confidence. She demanded a divorce from Mike. Mike clung to her for 3 years before finally giving in. Once free, Lily immediately went looking for Ethan. At first, they were sneaky about their relationship. But Lily wasn't satisfied with being a secret lover. She wanted to become Mrs. Ethan Shane, to claim both his person and his fortune. Ethan wasn't entirely heartless. He enjoyed being with Lily, but understood he couldn't risk public backlash. He never openly promised to marry her. So Lily racked her brain to come up with a solution. She was a master at underhanded tactics. Soon enough, she found a way to control Ethan. She forged medical records claiming she was terminally ill and pleaded with Ethan to give her a wedding before she died. Ethan agreed. That's why he faked amnesia and divorced me, to grant Lily's so-called dying wish. I stared at the files the private investigator had given me, laughing so hard that tears streamed down my face. I didn't blame Lily for setting me up. Instead, I felt incredibly fortunate to have left Ethan. A man who could share hardships but not prosperity. His character could only be so rotten. I didn't even blame Lily. I only blamed myself for not recognizing people clearly back then, for bringing this on myself. The day after the divorce, I posted a status on my social media. Single again. Starting a new life today. At noon, I went to my favorite hot pot restaurant to celebrate. During the 6 years I was with Ethan, because he didn't like spicy food, I had given up my beloved hot pot. Now that I was single again, the first thing I did was treat myself to it. I had just ordered and was about to dig in when an unexpected guest arrived. Mike, Lily's ex-husband. Mike approached and introduced himself. I looked at him coldly. We're not acquainted. What do you want? I want to talk to you about Lily and Ethan, he said. I'm not interested. I cut him off immediately. Mike's eyes burned with hatred as he stared in Lily's direction. Miss Sophie, are you really willing to hand Ethan over to a shameless woman like Lily? You're mistaken, I said calmly. I'm not handing him over, I simply don't want him anymore. A man who isn't worth it, why should I waste my energy? Mike sneered. Lily is a despicable liar. She abandoned Ethan when the Shane family went bankrupt and came to me instead. Then when my business declined, she went crawling back to Ethan. I grew impatient and interrupted. I know all of that. It has nothing to do with me. How could it not? Mike insisted. Miss Sophie, Ethan didn't stop loving you. He was deceived by Lily. You know how Lily tricked him into divorcing you, right? Mike seemed to think I was clueless and tried to persuade me further. Lily faked an illness. She said she had cancer and didn't have long to live. She used that to gain Ethan's sympathy. That's why he agreed to give her a wedding. Mike leaned closer. According to what I know, after they get married, Lily will claim it was a misdiagnosis. Then she'll officially become Mrs. Shane and enjoy everything that should have been yours. I gave a flat, emotionless, "Oh. And what does that have to do with me?" How can it have nothing to do with you? Mike's voice rose. Lily tricked Ethan and destroyed your marriage. Don't you want revenge? We could work together. I'm not interested in taking revenge on Ethan, I said calmly, rejecting him without hesitation. Mike's disappointment was almost palpable. He had thought I would be burning with resentment toward Ethan and Lily, ready to join forces with him. But he had thought too much. It takes strength to hate someone. I had already let go of everything when I agreed to the divorce and ended the pregnancy. I didn't hate Ethan. After all, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Why should I waste my precious youth hating a man who wasn't worth it? Mike left in frustration. I could tell he wouldn't let it go easily, but whatever he planned had nothing to do with me. After finishing my hot pot, I was on my way home when the real estate agent called. Someone was interested in buying the house and wanted to meet to discuss the price. I hurried over to the agency. The buyers were a young couple, very much in love, holding hands the entire time. After lowering the asking price by $2 million, I sold the house. Once we signed the contract, I unblocked Ethan and called him. Do you still want the stuff you left in the house? I asked. Yes, he answered immediately. Then come pick it up, I said simply. Ethan probably thought I still had lingering feelings for him, that asking him to come collect his things was just an excuse to see him. Excitedly, he said, Sophie, why don't we schedule a time? But before he could finish, Lily's sweet voice chimed in. Ethan, don't forget we have the wedding rehearsal this afternoon. You probably won't have time. Why don't you just ask Miss Sophie to ship the things over? Without saying another word, I hung up the call and immediately blocked Ethan again. Then, I contacted a moving company to pack up Ethan's belongings and deliver them to him. I stood there and watched with my own eyes as the moving company boxed up everything that belonged to Ethan and carried it out of the house. I returned to the place I was staying. That night, while I was having dinner, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, Ethan's angry voice came through. Sophie, did you change the door code? And why did you pack up my things from the house and have them sent to me? The house was sold, I replied calmly. Didn't your wife say over the phone that I should pack everything and ship it to you? I was just following her instructions. Is there a problem? Ethan's voice changed dramatically. You sold the house? Why would you sell it? Why didn't you discuss it with me? I grew impatient. Mr. Shane, the house is mine. I can do whatever I want with it. What does it have to do with you? Don't you think you're overstepping? Ethan fell silent for a long moment before speaking again, his voice a little shaky. I remember you loved that house. You personally designed and decorated it. I chuckled coldly, seeing right through his facade. So much for pretending to have amnesia, huh? You finally slipped up. I don't love it anymore, I added. Besides, Mr. Shane, aren't you supposed to have lost your memory? How is it you remember that I designed the house? Ethan was speechless. After a moment of awkward silence, he stammered, I'm starting to remember some things. Sophie, can we meet? There's no need, I said bluntly and hung up the phone. When Ethan tried calling again, I immediately blocked him. But even after being blocked, Ethan somehow found out where I was staying and showed up at my door, pressing the doorbell non-stop. He kept at it for quite a while until finally Lily came and dragged him away. I breathed a sigh of relief, took a shower, and got ready for bed. Just as I was about to lie down, Lily came knocking on my door. Sophie, I have something important to say to you. I was already fed up, but still opened the door. Lily's beautiful face twisted with smugness as she launched straight into her tirade. Sophie, learn to accept your losses. The divorce is final. Stop trying to use cheap tricks to get Ethan back. Selling the house and moving his stuff? So childish. She sneered at me. Let me tell you something. You will never get Ethan back. If you have any sense, you'll leave this city. Otherwise, I have plenty of ways to deal with you. I looked at her coldly. Deal with me? How exactly? I asked. She sneered even harder. Your child is just the beginning. Since there was no one else around, Lily didn't bother hiding anything anymore. Sophie, did you think it was a coincidence that you overheard Ethan's amnesia lie? I made sure you heard it. You're so stupid. You could have held on to your position as Mrs. Shane. But you couldn't stay patient. You gave up your only leverage and even got rid of the child. She laughed cruelly. If you had kept the baby, you might have been a threat to me. But now, you're nothing. So this was the real Lily, a woman who couldn't stand to share even the tiniest threat. She thought I had terminated the pregnancy out of anger and stubbornness, trying to spite Ethan. But she couldn't have been more wrong. I didn't get rid of the baby to win or lose anything. I simply didn't want to tie myself down to a man like Ethan, a man who, even after 6 years of love and loyalty, treated me like nothing. Why should I keep something that would only make me miserable? Wasn't it better to take half the fortune and live a new, beautiful life alone? Why let a pair of scumbags disgust me every day? Lily probably didn't know that I had taken half of Ethan's assets in the divorce. She was still basking in her delusions of victory. Honestly, I hadn't planned to bother with her, but she really didn't know when to stop. I smiled faintly and said, "The real winner is the one who laughs last." You think you've won already? Isn't it a little too early to celebrate? Before she could react, Lily suddenly slapped herself hard twice. The slaps were loud and heavy, and her face swelled up instantly. Then she started pulling at her own hair and threw herself to the ground. Within minutes, Ethan appeared, rushing into the scene. Seeing Lily lying on the floor, crying pitifully, he turned to glare at me furiously. How could you be so cruel, Sophie? Lily is still sick. How could you treat her like this? Ethan was truly worried about Lily. Otherwise, with his intelligence, he would have seen right through her pathetic act. But he didn't. For Lily's sake, he roared at me in anger. Ethan looked like he wanted to kill me. I stared at his furious face and smiled indifferently. Seeing me smile only made Ethan even angrier. Sophie, he roared, if anything happens to Lily, I will never forgive you. And what exactly are you planning to do to me? I asked calmly. Sophie, don't think that just because you're pregnant, I'll hold back, he shouted. I have no reason to show you mercy. If you want revenge for Lily, do it anytime, anywhere, if you have the ability. He was completely unreasonable, screaming in my face. Looking at Ethan's face made me sick. I didn't want to waste another word on him, so I simply closed the door in his face. Ethan pounded furiously on the door, wanting to continue arguing, but I called the property manager. In the end, security escorted Ethan and Lily away. My good mood for the night was ruined. I opened the wine cabinet, grabbed a bottle of red wine, and drank a few sips. That's when Mike called. Miss Sophie, after everything Lily has done to you, are you really gonna let it slide? Originally, I had intended to let Lily go. After all, I believed that one hand couldn't clap by itself. If Ethan, with his so-called intelligence, still chose to be led around by Lily, it must be because he loved her. Since they loved each other so much, I figured I would step aside and let them be. But apparently, Lily misunderstood my tolerance as weakness. She thought I was someone she could bully at will, provoking me again and again, stirring up trouble whenever she could. If she was so desperate to be handled, who was I to deny her? I spoke softly into the phone. I've changed my mind. Let's work together. On the day of Ethan and Lily's wedding, I packed my suitcase early and headed to the airport. 48 hours later, my plane finally landed. When I turned my phone back on, dozens of missed calls and messages flooded in. Among them was a live stream Mike had sent of the wedding. The wedding venue was beautifully decorated, air-shipped roses, festive balloons. A giant portrait of Ethan and Lily in their wedding attire stood proudly at the hotel entrance. Wearing a custom-made wedding dress, Lily slowly walked down the aisle. Under the officiant's guidance, she and Ethan completed their vows. As they exchanged rings and kissed, something unexpected happened on the big screen. The video changed. It showed Lily lying intimately in the arms of an unfamiliar man. Her voice was full of disdain. Ethan, without the Shane family fortune, he's nothing. When he was rich, he was worth something. Now that he's broke, he's a nobody. I would never stay with a loser. Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. But it wasn't over. More footage played. Videos of Lily partying wildly with different men of various backgrounds, engaging in acts so obscene they made people gasp. And then, footage of Lily bribing a doctor appeared. "You help me forge a fake diagnosis, and I'll pay you," she said. Finally, the recording of Lily chatting with her best friend played. "Once I drive Sophie away and get her to divorce Ethan, I'll become the rightful Mrs. Shane. Later, I'll just say it was a misdiagnosis. Once that's done, Sophie will be nothing." Ethan's face turned deathly pale as he watched the screen. Meanwhile, Lily screamed frantically, "It's fake. Someone is framing me. Turn it off. Turn it off right now." Mike ended the video with a follow-up message. "Ethan lost his mind. He left Lily at the wedding and stormed out. Now he's looking for you." I ignored Mike's message. Instead, I looked at the other flood of messages from a number I knew all too well, Ethan's. "Sophie, where are you? Sophie, please call me back. Sophie, I'm begging you. Sophie, my wedding with Lily doesn't mean anything. She said she was dying and just wanted a wedding before she died. I pitied her, that's why I agreed. I don't love Lily. The person I love is you. Sophie, it's always been you. I had no idea Lily would deceive me so horribly. Sophie, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been soft-hearted. It's all my fault. Please call me back, Sophie." Ethan sent message after message, trying to explain why he had agreed to marry Lily. Reading those desperate texts, I couldn't help but laugh. He said the person he loved was me? Maybe what he loved was the way I cared for him like a fool. Maybe he loved the way I acted like a loyal dog, always revolving around him. Now that the perfect Lily had shown her true, filthy self, Ethan finally realized what he had lost. He thought I was still the same foolish girl who loved him blindly, that a few sweet words from him would be enough to win me back. I didn't know there was a kind of love in this world that involved abandoning your wife and unborn child for another woman. If that's what love was, then maybe the world would be better off without it. I blocked Ethan's new number without hesitation and began my travels with a clear, unburdened heart. 3 months later, I returned to River City. Almost the moment I stepped into my home, Ethan showed up. He stood at the door, knocking for a long time. I took my time, showered, changed into fresh clothes, and then finally opened the door. Ethan looked much thinner than before. When he saw me, a flash of joy appeared in his eyes. "Sophie," he said urgently, "do you know how long I've been looking for you? Why were you hiding from me? How's the baby? Has the baby been troubling you?" He fired off question after question without giving me a chance to respond. Seeing that I stayed silent, Ethan's eyes finally dropped to my stomach. When I had the procedure, I was already over 2 months pregnant. By the time we divorced, another month had passed, and now another 3 months had gone by. A 6-month pregnant belly should have been obvious to anyone with basic common sense, but my stomach was flat. Ethan's voice caught in his throat. He stared at my belly, then at my calm face. "Where's the baby?" he asked, voice trembling. "Where's our baby?" "Don't you think it's a little late to be asking that now?" I replied coolly. "Sophie, what happened to the baby?" he pleaded. "Tell me." "The baby's gone," I said. His eyes widened in disbelief. "You're lying," he said. "How can the baby be gone? Our baby. You loved that child so much. You even said, 'I cut him off.' I do love children, but you don't. And besides, that pregnancy belonged to the past. We're divorced now. You were about to marry someone else. Why would I keep the baby?" "No," Ethan shook his head violently. "No, it's not possible. The baby couldn't just be gone." He stepped forward, trying to grab me, but I took several steps back, avoiding him. He stood there, looking at me with a face full of disbelief. "What do you mean?" he choked out. "Sophie, what do you mean? Why would you do this?" I looked at him coldly and sneered. "So now you can't handle it? Where was this concern when you were playing house with Lily while I was carrying your child? Where was this guilt when you cooked for her in the very house we once called home? You're a terrible actor, Ethan. Stop pretending. Watching his pathetic act made my stomach turn. The baby's gone, I said flatly. Is there anything else? No, he shook his head, eyes reddening. You're lying to me, aren't you? Sophie, you loved that child. You were so excited about it. How could you bear to? He choked on his words, unable to continue. I couldn't help but laugh. You're saying I loved the child? Funny, how would you know that? Weren't you supposed to have lost all memories of me? Who told you I loved the baby so much? I suddenly remembered. Ethan stammered, still trying to lie. I remember everything now, he said desperately. After you left, it all came back. I smiled at him, a smile that carried no warmth at all. Is that so? I said lightly. Then I should congratulate you on getting your memory back. Ethan's face paled at my words. I'm sorry, he said, his voice trembling. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been deceived, our baby. It's all my fault, Sophie. Please forgive me. No, I said slowly, clearly. I won't forgive you. You're not worthy. Ethan staggered back a step, shocked by the coldness on my face. I stepped closer, forcing him to look at me. Do you know? I said, voice like ice. The night you told me you wanted a divorce for Lily's sake, the same night you cooked a meal for her in our home. That was the night I decided to get rid of the baby. The very next morning, I went to the hospital. And after the procedure, I bumped into you and Lily. You thought I was stalking you back then. How could this happen? Ethan muttered, staring at me in horror. How could you do this? Ethan finally remembered everything. He lost control. He had always assumed I would foolishly wait for him, that no matter what he did, I would stay. He never expected me to move so quickly and decisively. With reddened eyes, Ethan roared at me. That was our child. How could you be so heartless? It was just a fetus, I said coldly. If you couldn't even remember the child's mother, why would you care about an embryo? Besides, once you married Lily, wouldn't she give you plenty of children anyway? No. Ethan's expression completely collapsed, and unbelievably, he even accused me. Sophie, how could you be so cruel? I didn't realize you were such a heartless person. I smiled faintly. Yeah, I didn't know either, until you and your precious Lily taught me. I had no intention of pretending anymore. Wasn't it exhausting, Ethan, faking amnesia all that time? If you wanted a divorce, you could have just told me. I may have clung to you once, but I'm not unreasonable. If you had told me straight that you wanted to marry Lily, I would have agreed. I took a breath and continued. But no, you had to lie. You had to pretend you forgot me. Don't you find that pathetic? Ethan's face turned pale. You? What are you saying? There's no point pretending now, I said icily, and I should really thank Lily. If she hadn't let it slip that you were faking, I might have continued being fooled by you. Ethan's face turned from white to red, then to an ugly shade of green. He gritted his teeth. That bitch Lily? She actually. I looked at Ethan's miserable face without a trace of sympathy. Ethan, during our 3 years of marriage, maybe I was foolish, but you were shameless. I never thought you had already been sneaking around with Lily before our divorce. You're disgusting. He tried to deny it. I didn't. Nothing happened between us. Enough, I cut him off sharply. I don't care what you and Lily did. It's none of my business anymore. From now on, let's just pretend we're strangers. Ethan's face twisted painfully, like he couldn't accept my indifference. Sophie, it was my fault. I was confused. Please, give me another chance. We can start over. We can have another baby together. And why on earth do you think I would ever want to be with you again? I asked coldly. Why would I ever want to have a child with you? Do you think I'm still that naive? Everything was laid bare. Ethan left, defeated and broken. He had thought that by putting on a show of remorse I would come running back, but he had no idea that I saw right through him now. The truth was, Ethan didn't come looking for me because he loved me. It was because his company was in trouble. Back when he abandoned me, he had assumed I would never have the heart to leave him. He thought that because I was carrying his child, I would inevitably come back to him. Yes, Lily had tricked him. But did Ethan himself not have ulterior motives? He loved Lily. He truly did. Fulfilling Lily's wish for a wedding was also fulfilling his own dream, to marry his first love, the woman he had always cherished. He had longed for that moment for so many years. In the end, he had been so desperate for it that he abandoned his wife, neglected his company. When I divorced him and took half the company's assets, it caused major cash flow issues. And while Ethan had been busy indulging in his romance with Lily, busy chasing that dream, he had neglected everything else. The scandal at their wedding had ruined his reputation in the business world. After Lily's divorce, Ethan no longer needed to hide their relationship, but the consequences were devastating. Now he was desperate to find me, not because he loved me, but because he needed the money I had taken with me. He thought that with a few emotional words, I would once again foolishly help him rebuild everything. How laughable. To avoid any further entanglements with Ethan, I left River City that very night and moved to Seaside City. 2 years later, I attended a gala and saw Ethan. The man who had once been so high and mighty now looked as if he had aged 10 years. His temples were streaked with gray, and he no longer had the confidence and brilliance he once flaunted. He was holding a glass of wine, his face full of ingratiating smiles, bowing and scraping in front of Gu Xian, the host of the event, begging for investment. Gu Xian didn't bother giving Ethan any face. He simply said, "I'll have to discuss it with my wife first before making any decisions." Everyone knew that Gu Xian had gotten married a year ago. The wedding was low-key, and Mrs. Gu had always remained behind the scenes. A flash of disappointment crossed Ethan's eyes as he watched Gu Xian walk away. He then turned and tried approaching several other CEOs, hoping to strike a deal. Without exception, he was rejected. Left all alone, Ethan finally noticed me. His eyes lit up, and he actually walked toward me with his wine glass in hand. "Sophie," he said eagerly, "how have you been?" "Good," I replied briefly, sparing no extra words. "I've been looking for you," he said hurriedly. "These past 2 years, I've really regretted everything. Sophie, can you give me another chance? I truly, truly want to make it right." Before he could finish his pitiful speech, a hand reached over and gently clasped mine. "Honey, this is an old acquaintance," I said casually. Ethan's gaze fell on my husband, Gu Xian, and the disbelief in his eyes was almost comical. He watched as Gu Xian placed his hand tenderly around my waist and handed me a glass of juice. His voice filled with affection as he asked, "Is the baby giving you any trouble?" The light in Ethan's eyes completely faded. He lowered his head and walked away quietly. No one stays waiting in the same place forever. I didn't believe Ethan didn't understand that. Once upon a time, I had fought for him with everything I had because of gratitude, because of love. Now, seeing him only left me feeling a bit wistful, and above all, grateful. Grateful for his betrayal, grateful for his abandonment. Because of him letting go, I was finally able to find the true love that belonged to me. From the bottom of my heart, I genuinely thanked him.